Shad Khan's vision for luxury on the St. Johns River gets a big thumbs up from the city, along with buckets of potential taxpayer support. Good morning. We're live from Studio 5. I'm Melissa Ross, and this is First Coast Connect. Thanks for listening. Just ahead this hour, the latest on the hefty incentive package that could bring a Four Seasons hotel and more to the sports complex. What do you think, folks? Give us a call, 549-2937. Then later, a little good news for your midweek in our What's Good Wednesdays. But first this hour, Jaguars owner Shad Khan sailed through a city council vote last night to approve $114 million in taxpayer money to help build a Four Seasons luxury hotel and some other developments near the Jaguars stadium. Now, there's a lot to get into with this, so we're pleased to have back on the show once again David Bauerlein of the Florida Times-Union. He's been covering this throughout and joins us now by phone. Hi, David.
Hey, good morning, Melissa.
Good to talk to you. Let us know, everybody, your thoughts about the deal if it goes through, if it becomes final, to have more than $100 million of your money going into construction of a Four Seasons in downtown Jacksonville and some other interesting items. 549-2937. Emails to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Tweets to @MelissaInJax. Already getting lots of your tweets. We'll get to those in a moment. So, David, this was a unanimous vote. No surprise. The city council heartily approved this plan. This is a lot of money that we're talking about. What's on the table here, and what might we expect if construction begins?
Well, construction could or should start in some form by June of next year. It is a lot of money. The requirement would be for Shad Khan's group, Iguana Investments, to spend at least $301 million in private financing on it. The city's project share would be like a $26 million completion grant that would be a big cash payment after the project is finished. And then there would be some property tax rebates that would basically about $48 million over 20 years on 75% of the property taxes that would be generated for the city. And then there's some other spending on things like upgrading the public marina, which still would remain a public marina, the Riverwalk, which would be open to the public, a marina support building, and then there's some relocation of some buildings that would have to happen because it would be built on what used to be the Kids Campus Park portion of Metropolitan Park. So it's a lot of money from the private side and from the public side in order to, according to the analysis by the Downtown Investment Authority, make this project financially viable.
You reported this week in the TU that Nashville is getting a Four Seasons. It's being built right now, but it's being financed entirely with private funds. The argument here in Jacksonville is that public money has to be part of this to make it viable. Now, here's what they want to do. In addition to 176 hotel rooms, they also want to build, Mr. Khan and his firm, 25 luxury condos and a 6-story Class A office building. Two questions I have for you, David. At least $400 a night for these hotel rooms, if not more. That, right off the bat, people, the most common question that we're being asked about this deal is, do they really expect to fill a hotel in downtown Jacksonville regularly at rooms that cost upwards of $400 a night? The second question is, why do we need more new office space in downtown when we can't even lease the office space that we have? These seem like basic questions that taxpayers have that haven't really been answered. What are they what's the argument for both of these buildings and how they will be economically successful?
Yeah, starting with the hotel, it's a great question. Now, Northeast Florida does have luxury hotels, but they're on the ocean. I mean, you think of what's on Amelia Island. You can think of One Ocean in Atlantic Beach. You can think of the Ponte Vedra Inn and Club in St. Johns County. And those are places where you're spending top dollar to get a hotel room there, and they've got spas and, you know, the full luxury treatment. The big question is that going to be something where people are going to come downtown and pay that kind of money to do the Four Seasons experience? Does downtown have enough of a draw to make people want to spend that kind of money? Certainly, what happens in the walls is what happens in the walls, but then what do you get when you walk out the door and you are experiencing whatever else you want to experience when you're putting that kind of money into a hotel room? So some analysis was done that showed, I think that it would open with about 57% average daily occupancy in 2025, and then that would increase over the next 5 years as would the hotel room rates. So that's the projection. That's the expectation behind this deal. You're right. I mean, we won't know till we know whether that's actually something that people are going to want to put that kind of money down to come into downtown Jacksonville. And we don't know what this downtown's going to be like 5 years from now. If it's going to be better, the same, stagnant, worse, those are big questions as well.
That's true. Yeah.
And then on the Class A office space, one would expect the Jaguars would probably be using some of that. It's speculative in the sense that, yes, there is downtown is kind of hit post-pandemic or during the pandemic. There's been a lot of questions about what the future demand is going to be for office space downtown. And I will say that, the office occupancy has been pretty much the same in downtown as it has been for the rest of the county. You certainly have seen ViStar and some other companies moving into downtown. So how that full 6 stories would be filled, some of it I suspect would be for Jaguars operations, but who's going to fill the rest of it? That's always a speculative thing when you do a project like this.
Now, Four Seasons, the parent company, doesn't own most of the properties it manages. Typically, the developers, and that would be Shad Khan, acquire the land, finance the construction, and they pay licensing fees and a percentage of profits to the hotel chain. The hotel chain oversees day-to-day operations. The developers recoup their investment on condo sales. Shad Khan owns a Four Seasons in Toronto, which he's talked about quite a bit, and how much he likes the brand. But is he hoping to make money on the condo sales? Because I think there's a fair bit of skepticism that he can make money on the hotel.
Yeah, well, I think on the condo sales, the market analysis was that they thought that they would be able to sell those out. There's, I think, about 25 of them, and they were saying that based on looking at the Jacksonville area, you could probably do 2 or 3 times that amount and still be able to sell them. So they are pricey. They're millions of dollars. I think the penthouse would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $16.5 million for a rough estimate for what its sales value would be. So yes, you make money off of those residents in terms of the sales. Four Seasons, to me, the big question is they have not, as of yet, publicly said they are coming to Jacksonville. And there's been a lot of talks, a lot of negotiations on that. But, I'm until we actually see Four Seasons say it's coming, I think it's fair to have some skepticism about whether that's actually going to happen. Obviously, Four Seasons is a brand that's very exclusive, and they, I'm sure, look very carefully not only at the project itself, but also where it's going to be located, because they surely don't want to dilute their brand. And so I'm sure that I will wait and see if they actually commit to putting their flag on this luxury hotel when it's built.
We'll go to your calls in a moment. 549-2937. Lots of tweets. And just as with the failed Lot J deal, judging by the tone of the feedback we're getting, taxpayers aren't liking this. Here's a tweet from Gerald. A hotel that caters to rich people, one that I will never be able to afford, is being paid for by me. At the same time, my recycling isn't getting picked up. This shows me that the city council is serving the financially elite, not Jacksonville residents. Here's another tweet from Susan. I continue not to understand why the city council takes money from poor and middle class families and gives it to millionaires. Michael, are there any guarantees from Khan to keep him from pulling a switcheroo like he did with Daly's Place? And what does he plan to do to get the worst of the NFL into competing for championships? Because very few will pay Four Seasons money to watch what we are forced to endure on a weekly basis. Okay, so David Bauerlein, this team is on a 20-game losing streak. And yet the city tells Shad Khan, yes, whatever you want, you can have it. Take the taxpayer money, even though this team is losing and we don't have basic city services. There's a lot of anger about all of this out there right now.
Yeah, the recycling especially and the trash pickup, the optics are not good, as they would say, to approve this type of a development. And the city's having trouble doing basic pickup of garbage from the curbside. Most of the money for this particular project, in terms of money that's actually going to end up with Shad Khan and his development group, is going to be paid out by the city after the project is actually finished. There'll be the big completion grant, that's a big chunk of money, $26 million, that would be paid after it's finished, and then the property tax rebates would be based on the value of property taxes that are generated by the development itself. So that's money that you could argue the city wouldn't be getting but for this development being done. Having said all that, it's a very large amount of money. And so the recycling situation has caused a lot of reaction from residents saying, take care of the basic stuff rather than, as the commenter said, investing in a hotel that I'm never going to set foot in terms of stay a night in.
Yeah. And the council, by the way, in the dead of night last night, they also voted through COVID relief funds that they handed out with little oversight. That they're under criticism for that too. Another question before we go to calls, David. Here's a tweet from a listener. What is the ROI on this deal for the taxpayers? Is that information available anywhere publicly? In other words, go ahead.
Sure. So the return on investment is basically what would the city get back in tax revenue generated by this development in return for its investment. So the Downtown Investment Authority calculated it would be $1.01 for each $1 of taxpayer money going into the project. So that's a break-even proposition. And then the city council auditor did its own calculations, and they came up with 99 cents of return for each $1. It's just basically a little bit of a difference in terms of what the minimum number of hotel rooms would be and how that's plugged in.
Well, that's a net loss, isn't it? Technically.
Technically, 99 cents for $1.
But hundreds of millions of dollars, those pennies do add up.
That would be right, yeah. And so the main difference is the auditor said, well, we're going to base it on 170 hotel rooms, which is the minimum. And I think the Downtown Investment Authority used the figure of 176 hotel rooms, which is kind of the plan. So that's the difference. If you have fewer hotel rooms, then you have fewer guests and fewer hotel bed taxes, et cetera.
The Four Seasons Hotels and Resorts is primarily owned by Cascade Investment, LLC. It's an investment vehicle of Bill Gates and Saudi Arabian Prince Al-Walid bin Talal. Bill Gates' Cascade apparently has a controlling interest. Al-Walid was arrested in 2017 in Saudi Arabia in an anti-corruption purge. The allegations against him include money laundering, bribery, and extorting officials. Just a little background on the ownership of the Four Seasons. No proof that this brand is part of the global laundromat, the second economy as it's known. Money laundering goes on all over the world. We've seen in recent years more about how the world's wealthy hide and move their money around with the release of the Pandora Papers, the Panama Papers, other revelations. I think these questions also need further exploration. 549-2937, Tom on the west side.
Yes. Good morning to y'all. I totally believe that this is sends a tone-deaf message. It just does not make sense for Jacksonville, a city that is awash in homelessness, to especially downtown, to be considering putting in a luxury hotel with so much money spent when we've done very little to help the homeless. In addition to that, we're taking money from, we're taking our park area away from the public at large and dedicating it to people from out of town. And that just is a poor allocation of public resources of the city. And the point about the trash collection is also something that needs to be considered. We're failing in basic responsibilities here while providing for luxuries for tourists. Like I say, the message just is horrible.
Tom, thanks. Okay, David. So that's the common refrain we're hearing. And there's also this matter of the park space, the green space along the river, and how this development will interact with the coalition of groups who's pushing for that green space along the water.
Yeah, that's the other part of this that still has to play out. So the Four Seasons hotel residents in the office building would go on a portion of parkland that used to be Kids Campus a decade ago. And it's open park space right now. In order to build on that, the city would have to replace that park space. And they are looking at 10 acres that's further towards downtown on what has been called the Shipyard site. It's just abandoned vacant property, and that would be turned into a, quote, world-class park. So there's still a matter of getting that finalized, understanding how that's going to be funded. And there's some process that's underway as well to get the State Department of Environmental Protection to agree to that land swap, since there was some grant money that went into the Kids Campus park development area. So that's still a moving target there, and how that's all going to work in. If the plan that they put forward would be, in excess of 40 acres of green space and park space in that stretch of the riverfront, you'd have the Four Seasons, you'd have a relocated Museum of Science and History, but a lot of it would just be wide open park space on the riverfront and what now is pretty barren, not really enticing land at all, and certainly no good access to the Riverwalk or riverfront along there.
And
so that could be a great improvement if it all comes together.
Right. And certainly when Shad Khan says, let's be aspirational, let's shoot for the moon, after years and years of failed attempts and broken promises and the recession and now the pandemic, we've seen nothing but renderings and not much else when it comes to developing the waterfront in this manner. So if it does come together, it could be pretty exciting. All of that said, the taxpayer incentives are never popular with the public, and this is a lot of taxpayer money. You did an examination of how Nashville is getting a Four Seasons purely with private investment. Now, that's because they have a more dense urban downtown footprint. That's part of the reason why, isn't it? They feel they'll get more foot traffic initially. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, they're just further along in their downtown. Downtown Nashville has 15,000 people in 1.8 square miles. Jacksonville has 7,000 and 3.9 square miles. So, we have half as many people spread over twice as big an area. It's just not as mature a downtown or as advanced a downtown. And, from what I've seen in my research, and there could be exceptions to this, Four Seasons generally is not putting its flag on hotel properties that are developed with taxpayer incentives. I think for the reason that they're generally going to places where there are already destinations, and they're kind of taking advantage of that. They're all over the place. They're in the middle of big cities. There's 3 of them in South Florida. There's one in Orlando with Disney World, obviously a destination. They're opening one in California, in the Napa Valley, where people will stay in rooms in a working winery. So that's the kind of Four Seasons model. Now here, Jacksonville's sort of trying to, I guess, it's being aspirational. It's kind of getting ahead of maybe where downtown is now. And the argument is that by doing this, that then gets other development to come in, that it's a catalyst, as they say, for other downtown development happening, because private investments say, oh, downtown, there's a Four Seasons there. That's something that I can put my own investment dollars in there, because that's going to help me get a return on investment as well.
Eric is in Arlington. Hello, Eric.
Oh, hey, Melissa. I was worried I was going to miss the call. The car alarm on my Lamborghini just went off, and I had to run out.
That's
in the
always
front
such a
yard. Can you hear me?
problem. I have that same
it is.
problem all the time. I know. What a pain.
I've had a busy morning. I got a call from my veterinarian, Boopy, my little dog, is getting cosmetic surgery. $12,000 worth of cosmetics. He's getting Botox. But the good news is
You've
I
got
just
some
heard from
problems, my friend.
it's terrible being wealthy. People don't realize how much work it is. But
Yes.
The good news is I just got a call from my Republican representative, and I found out that Boopy surgery, because of a new tax loophole, is going to be tax deductible. So my only question is,
Thank the
is there gonna be
Lord.
is there going to be a place for me to park my yacht down there once this thing gets done?
You can
Thank you
park
for
it
taking
next
my
to
call.
the Kismet. Thanks, Eric. I think he's selling that, though, actually. Okay. David, this is a town. This isn't a wealthy town, okay? Half the kids in this town are on free or reduced lunch at school. There is a very small elite of wealthy people who has enormous influence over our local officials. I think it's fair to say. But this is even though it's becoming more of a middle and upper middle class town, it's still a kind of a working class community in many respects. And so, the notion that they're going to fill this hotel up with $400 a night rooms, it's just not flying with folks. Now, a lot of people could be coming in to visit, and that it may be mainly a tourism driven hotel, but is it really realistic to say that if they put a Four Seasons on the river, that's going to magically attract a lot of other stuff and pack tourists in regularly as they do up on Amelia Island? Really?
Well, I think that, Melissa, that is the fundamental question is number one, is Four Seasons going to agree that a Four Seasons level of development, a 5-star or 4-star hotel can make it, and that people are going to choose. I mean, these people who, if they are choosing a Four Seasons, they can choose to go anywhere potentially, right? Why Jacksonville rather than some other Four Seasons property? And it is it's an expensive hotel, and it is. I understand the argument people are making, which my taxpayer dollars are going to a property that I'm never going to spend a night in, and probably never going to even go there to the restaurant to eat a meal there. The argument would be that to the extent this fits into downtown development and is a piece of downtown development. Downtown development is something the city has been striving to do for many years, and that it could fit into this larger piece of development along the shipyards all the way down to Met Park that is lagging and is not anywhere near what people would like to see for that part of downtown, that it can be a part of that blend of public park space and, yes, this luxury hotel that would presumably attract some people to downtown that otherwise are not coming to spend their money downtown, and that could have some ripple effect.
Well, the Downtown Development Review Board meets and votes Thursday whether to award conceptual approval to these plans. I think most people will assume that they will vote yes. Then the big question will be, will the Four Seasons commit to this location? Will they move forward? We'll be following it, and it's always good to get your insights. David Bauerlein of the Florida Times-Union. Thanks.
Thanks, Melissa. Great to be here.
Much more still ahead. Later, a little good news to brighten up your Wednesday, but up next.
When you start talking smart city, one of the first things a lot of folks draw attention to, and that's been sort of a byproduct of this movement over the past 5 years or so, we really start to look at mobility.
Can Jacksonville become a smart city? We speak with the new head of Smart North Florida next. Well, Smart North Florida has introduced new leadership and plans to advance their Smart Cities initiative throughout the region. What's that all about? Well, they're going to use technology and innovation to try to solve all kinds of urban problems, everything from potholes to waste management to the digital divide. New Executive Director Clayton Levins says Jacksonville is also now part of a regional Smart Cities network. So how is the 904 getting smarter? Here's that conversation. Hi, Clayton. Good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Happy to be here with you, Melissa.
And congratulations on your new role as Executive Director of Smart North Florida. For
Thank
people,
you.
yeah, congrats. For people who aren't familiar with it, what is Smart North Florida?
That's a great question, Melissa. So think of Smart North Florida as the innovation group for public sector and nonprofit entities. So we are born out of sort of this smart cities, smart regions identity, thanks to the great work that's been done by our predecessor here at the North Florida TPO. And so we're born out of that movement and are operating in a way to try to innovate the processes of public sector, of local governments, utilities, et cetera, all across the North Florida region, trying to drive new technologies into use, trying to drive new and innovative systems for citizens all across the region, and just trying to make the business of government, of public sector, smarter as many smart cities try to operate.
And when we talk about a smart city, are we talking about the transportation grid, the infrastructure overall, or is it bigger than that?
I think it starts to get bigger than just mobility. Yes, when you start talking smart city, one of the first things a lot of folks draw attention to, and that's been sort of a byproduct of this movement over the past 5 years or so, we really start to look at mobility. But I think at the end of the day, a smart city is one where our local governments, coalitions of private and public sector and nonprofits are sort of banding together to use new solutions and innovations to solve the core problem statements of our community. That's really what it comes down to in our eyes. So we can apply that model of innovation to healthcare, education, mobility, as you mentioned, housing. That's what I think makes a community smart, is when we start to identify and start with our problem statements and knock down barriers of collaboration from there and really utilize innovation to really start to adopt new technologies and opportunities within those specified problem statements. So that's where we operate from Smart North Florida. We really like to dig down into what are the real problems that are facing our community right now, and then how do we adopt new technologies and solutions to really transform those problem statements into new opportunities that make our community stronger.
What would be an example of a problem in our area that you'll be using technology and innovation at Smart North Florida to try to solve?
Sure. I'll give you a great one that I think really has demonstrated why the model that we operate at Smart North Florida can be successful. And it started with the problem statement was pavement management. Many of our communities, county governments, and local governments, it takes a lot of manpower to perform pavement management analysis to make sure that our infrastructure is strong for vehicles every day, right? So what we ended up doing...
No, not to cut you off, but are you talking
Sure.
potholes? Are you talking... when you say pavement management, I think potholes, but maybe I'm wrong. What does that mean?
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. From potholes to cracks in our road to basically when you're talking about within our infrastructure, when you're talking about how all of our infrastructure works together from just the roadway standpoint, you have to be able to determine as a community and from a city management side, what roadways are in need of repair, right now, and what roadways have the opportunity to fall into sort of the pipeline of improvement. And so that's where sort of the problem statement came to us, was how can we create a more cost-effective way for local governments and county governments to manage their pavement management analysis. And so it started for us as we partnered with a company, a startup out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, called Roadbotics. And Robotics essentially performs pavement management analysis with your cell phone. You download their application, and a public works employee can attach the cell phone to their dashboard or other recording device to their dashboard as they're driving the pavements that are being analyzed, the roadways that are being analyzed, excuse me. And then on the back end, the cell phone, the data that's pouring in through the recording on the cell phone is where the pavement management analysis is occurring. And within the connection that we were able to make between the startup to the problem statement, the Clay County government was able to pilot the solution on a smaller roadway. I believe it was Thunder Road. And then Nassau County adopted it for a full deployment across their network, their infrastructure, and was able to get a 20-year road management plan out of the platform. And now the cities of Keystone Heights, Neptune Beach, and St. Augustine are all adopting the robotics platform into their upcoming fiscal years to be able to perform payment management analysis in a more streamlined, efficient manner. So that's like a very small nugget of a problem statement where, we try to apply our innovation and our level of thinking to solving that critical problem statement for the communities and partners that we have that are working with. So hopefully that was a way to illustrate.
Sure. Now, Clayton, as I look at your website, I see that you're also looking at smart technology and bringing together startups and organizations to do brain trust on other big problems. One that jumps right out on your website is waste management. Of course, right now in this city, we are having a huge problem with waste management. There is no curbside recycling right now. How could Smart North Florida be part of solving that problem potentially?
Yeah, that's a big problem statement right now, Melissa, and one that we have not necessarily gone right in and have had any specific solution attached to it just yet, but we are working with a couple of communities to see what could possibly be done by basically leveraging platforms for easily being able to communicate where the sort of the problem buildup of recycled material and everything, where are these building up in certain neighborhoods? So for folks to easily be able to even just share a picture to an internal system that can then sort of catalog and categorize where problem areas are, to basically just help the systems internally for local governments, is something that we're trying to help folks work through.
Another another one I want to mention quickly is you're working to reduce the digital divide on the historic East Side, a challenged neighborhood. That seems like a pretty important project too.
Absolutely. So, economic mobility and the way that we, operate in our day today, and the COVID-19 pandemic has only, exacerbated that, the need for connection in our households. And so for our underserved communities, both urban and rural, because we are looking at this problem statement, across the region, our communities need affordable home internet connection. And so Smart North Florida is really dedicated to seeing how we can bridge this digital divide, and our effort in the East Side has been a great example of how we can do that in sort of a on a small scale for a community that has the needs that they do. And we've had really great partners that have helped us with getting this connection opportunity going. And Duval County Public Schools now is really taking the lead in running with getting affordable, broadband internet connection into homes of students in that area, and are working to do it across their school system. So, and we're looking at this, at an expansive level to again see if we can also get that last mile of connection in some of our rural regions around Northeast Florida, because there's to your point, there's a stark digital divide right now that has to be overcome.
More at smartnorthflorida.com. Check it out. Executive Director Clayton Levins, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks very much, Melissa. I really appreciate the time today.
Well, this weekend, the names of those lost to COVID-19 will fly high on flags above a historic baseball park. The Jacksonville COVID Task Force will host a day of remembrance, hope, and unity this Sunday at the historic James P. Smalls Park. Dr. Mark Griffin, pastor of Wayman Chapel AME Church, is a member of the task force, and he's on the line. Mark Griffin, good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you as well. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks. Happy to be alive and healthy. We've got to count our blessings in this pandemic, and I'm glad to see that this event will remember the citizens in this city who've passed away from COVID-19. Tell us what will be happening.
Yes, on this Sunday, the 17th of October at 2 p.m. at the James Smalls Park, the COVID Task Force is presenting a day of remembrance, hope, and unity. The focus of this day, first and foremost, is to recognize and remember the people who have died. In Duval County, we have lost over 2,600 people to COVID-19, and many of these people they're not famous, but they are someone's father and mother and children, and so we want to help these families bring healing to a process that, quite frankly, crept up on all of us. And unfortunately, a lot of these families, because of the quickness and how the illness came upon them, they were not able to give their loved ones the proper funeral and so many things that we're accustomed to doing because of COVID-19 and many of the restrictions that were placed upon us in terms of having what we traditionally will refer to as homegoing celebrations. Many people even died alone, as you know. People who were very sick could not even have the hand-holding of their loved ones. And so this is a day to remember those wonderful Duval County residents who've gone on due to COVID-19.
Mm-hmm. Now, in addition to honoring the dead, you also have a goal among your task force to increase vaccination rates among African-American citizens of Jacksonville. Tell us about this effort.
Absolutely. Members of the task force and others, we've been working very hard to say to our community, now that we have vaccines available, we need to have people to come out and be vaccinated. As you know, in Duval County as well as the state of Florida, the rate of vaccinations among African Americans is lower than other populations. And so we're going to also spend time providing information, and also we will give people an opportunity to get vaccinated. There are so many myths out there that we are working hard to debunk, from people believing that when they get the vaccine, microchips are being placed in their bodies. There are people who feel that once they've had COVID, they cannot get it. And so we want to provide them with information as well as the opportunity to get vaccinated. And we want to set the example of those of us who've been vaccinated and we are well, we are doing good. We want to let them know that there are so many of us who've gone ahead of them and we are just fine. And they can also have that protection that's provided by the vaccines.
Will there be vaccinations not on site, but just information about vaccination, correct?
No, there will be vaccinations.
There will be vaccinations on site.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And we're also going to have a free food giveaway because we know a lot of people have lost their jobs due to the pandemic, and Florida Blue will be on site to provide information about affordable insurance because a lot of people cannot afford insurance, and so when they get sick, they don't have the medical wherewithal to help their recovery process. So it's going to be a holistic day where we plant flags in memory of those who died, but we also want to bring our community together Melissa, as you know, another negative of COVID is that it has caused our community to become so polarized.
Mm-hmm.
The whole issue of wearing masks and getting vaccinated. And so what we're trying to do, we're trying to bring people together. We're saying to people, we understand we're not trying to rob anyone of their individual rights, but from a public standpoint, we want people to have the correct information and make the best decision for themselves. And we believe once they get the right information, they will make the right decision to protect themselves and their family.
People can also submit a deceased loved one's name. You can email the task force at jackscovidtaskforce@gmail.com. And Pastor Griffin, you know, this will be at Smalls Park in Durkeeville, which is a place I think everyone should visit. This is a site that has been honored as part of the National Register of Historic Places. Giants in baseball played at this park. Hank Aaron, many others. During the days of yesteryear when teams were segregated. There's an incredible museum inside the baseball park telling the history of the Negro Leagues. It's really an incredible place to visit, full of history. So, you know, Pastor Griffin, that's another bonus for coming out.
Exactly. I don't think we could have selected a better site for this. And so to your point, we have great people in our community that have paved the way. And as you talked about the great baseball players, I can't help but remember one of the early people who passed away from COVID-19 before there was a vaccine was Troy Sneed, who was a phenomenal gospel artist here in Jacksonville, who had a reputation nation and worldwide, someone I knew personally. And we want to honor people like that, but also the unknown individuals that were very important to some family. This is a day that we will honor. So we will honor the great heroes, but also we will honor those who go so often unnamed and unnoticed, but they are named and noticed to those families. So we want those families to know we are embracing you, we are loving on you, and we know that even though your loved one is gone, your struggle continues. But we're saying you don't have to struggle by yourself. We're coming together as a community on this day of remembrance, hope, and unity.
It's this Sunday, 2 p.m. at Smalls Park. That's at 1701 Myrtle Avenue in Durkeeville. Free, open to the public, and free vaccinations, of course, as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Mark Griffin, pastor of Wayman Chapel AME Church, a member of the Jack's COVID Task Force. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon.
Thank you, and have a blessed day.
And in a moment, a little good news for your Wednesday. That's next. Don't go away.
Announcing Vickers Landing at Oak Bridge, bridging retirees with an all-new Ponte Vedra Beach community, featuring new homes, a resort lifestyle, and a life plan for every stage of aging. Information at vickerslanding.com.
Lee & Kate's Glass, family owned and operated for 95 years. Lee & Kate's Glass is your source for upgrading your home's glass, from shower doors and mirrors to windows and tabletops. Learn more at leeandkatesglass.com. Congaree & Penn, dedicated to agriculture and culinary endeavors, offering field-to-fork dining and outdoor experiences on over 300 acres. Sip, dine, explore. Information at congareeandpenn.com. Join math professor Dr. Talithia Williams at Teach on Saturday, November 13th at the Hyatt Regency Riverfront. Visit wjct.org/teach for details and to get your tickets now.
On the next Fresh Air, a remarkable story of beating the odds. As a young child, Richard Antoine White slept in abandoned houses and parks in Baltimore. But he became the first Black American to earn a doctorate in tuba performance and is now principal tubist for the New Mexico Philharmonic. His new memoir is called I'm Possible. Join us.
Today at noon on WJCT News 89.9.
The persistence of a pandemic that we all want to put behind us is pushing some to the edge.
I watched two old women have the biggest argument I've ever seen in my life over some collard greens.
New polling from NPR points to the struggles many still have paying the bills, despite the financial assistance most have had from the government. The hard road getting back to normal on the next 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, Jacksonville's gorgeous Cathedral District is gearing up for another festive season this year. They're going to have a holiday lights show at all of the 5 downtown cathedrals and a self-guided tour that you can enjoy in this historic neighborhood all through December. Meanwhile, there's a big event to kick off all the fun, a fundraiser coming up in just a few weeks. I got a preview from Cathedral District CEO and President Ginny Myrick.
This will be our third year to do our big public Christmas gift to the city, which is to light up the Cathedral District with hundreds and hundreds of lights in all the trees. And it's capped by a beautiful light show on the facade front of the Basilica on Church Street. Last year we did it 1 or 2 nights. This year we're doing it 3 weeks on the weekends. So you'll see some dates that are going to fly out of here pretty soon about when you can see the Basilica all lit up. And then the district itself officially opens on November 27th. And then, of course, we'd like to invite anybody who's interested to take a look at our fundraiser. The first time we're holding a fundraiser, and that's November 7th, where we're going to premiere at this gala the light up of the district. And that evening there'll be heavy hors d'oeuvres and a full bar and a silent auction. But most importantly, inside is a live concert with an ensemble from the Jacksonville Symphony, and it's all done to a choreographed light show inside the interior architecture of St. John's Cathedral. So you can get tickets to that by going to our website, cathedraldistrictjax.org.
And here's some more good news for your midweek. You can celebrate fall this weekend with a relaxing afternoon in nature alongside your favorite human and canine friends. The pet-loving public can explore the Jacksonville Arboretum's natural wonders at Tales and Trails at the Arboretum this Saturday, from 1 to 5 p.m. Tickets are only $10 with signature pup tails from Tito's Handmade Vodka. Mocktails still available. Guided trail hikes with master naturalists. Food trucks, live music. Sounds like fun. Now, speaking of pets, First Coast No More Homeless Pets has a new CEO. Jennifer Barker. Yes, that is her real name. The CEO of First Coast No More Homeless Pets is named Jennifer Barker, and she says they're going strong in the pandemic, helping clients pay for veterinary bills, spay and neuter services, and more.
We operate one of the largest spay and neuter clinics in the nation, and we performed over 23,000 spay and neuter surgeries this past year. So over the years, we've developed and sustained dozens of partnerships with local rescue and shelter groups, and this has allowed us to establish our region as a leader in the no-kill movement. So here in Jacksonville, we're committed to making sure that animals can wind up back in homes and make it out of the shelters alive. You know, it's been a tough year for many, many families, and so many of them have experienced different hardships throughout this crisis. Many of them have lost their jobs, and they really needed a place to turn when their pets became ill. And so that's why we knew it was extremely important for us to pull together and figure out a way to keep our doors open, so that way when there are animals in need, we're there to serve those families. In fact, we've provided over $250,000 of charitable veterinary care, and that allows us to bridge that financial gap for so many of these clients that we just talked about, so they can keep their pets happy and healthy and in their homes without the stress of the exorbitant veterinary costs. Right now, we just launched our end-of-year matching gift challenge, and so thanks to a generous donor, any gifts made through the end of this year will be matched dollar for dollar up to $100,000. So it's the perfect time for anyone who wants to support our mission to make a donation.
You can do that, donate and volunteer at fcnmhp.org. More weekend events. The Jacksonville Jazz Society presents live music Jazz on the Green this Saturday at the Eagle Landing Clubhouse in Orange Park from 3 to 7. It's free. Bring your chairs, food, beverages, and enjoy. Well, it's almost Halloween. You can visit a real haunted house in St. Augustine on America's oldest street. There have been at least 13 people who have died at the Jimenez Fadio house, built in 1798. They're offering twilight tours every Friday and Saturday night in October and the first weekend in November. This third annual Twilight Tour focuses on fatal folklore. As the sun sets, it gets a little spooky at this former boarding house at 20 Avalez Street. Many came to stay at Miss Fadio's boarding house, but some never made it home. You can hear the spookier side of this historic site and learn more about some of the interesting guests who stayed there and the families who've owned the property in the 200-plus years it has been standing. From Spanish merchants to soldiers stationed in St. Augustine to the single women who raised their families there, this house has centuries of stories within its coquina walls. You might even meet the house's spirit friend, Little Miss Madison. People say she likes to run up and down the stairs, move items around, and play with a dollhouse on the third floor. Make your reservations now at the Jimenez Fadio House website. Enjoy a spooky time. And if you've got some good news to add to our weekly midweek menu, drop us a line. Let us know what you're up to. And thanks for listening. That's our show. Our senior producer is Heather Schatz. Our director today is Josh Torres with associate producer Catherine Hobbs, editorial director Jessica Palumbo, and news editor Randy Roguski. I'm Melissa Ross. I'll be off tomorrow and Friday, but we have some fabulous fill-in hosts stepping into Studio 5, so keep listening. Be safe out there and have a great day.
Support for